Today we explore the careers available in the game. Let's start by organizing them in two groups. The primary contain every professional class which is directly connected to performing music. They are musician, composer, music therapist, conductor, music teacher, arranger and music influencer. The secondary group involves pro players which work in music but don't perform it. They are producer, sound engineer, lyricist, music manager, critic, musicologist, luthier, artistic director, DJ and roadie. Now we will proceed with a quick overview on how to optimize the build for each career, and we will place them in a tier list according to difficulty and highest stats requirement. For most of them there is a precise path of study you can follow to get the adequate preparation. Of course, it's very hard to rank this career, because for each one of them there is a multitude of possibilities and situations. But since in the past 20 years I've personally known and worked with every single one of these professional figures, I think I can give you an idea. In F tier we have the roadie, who carries and sets up instrument and stage equipment in an event or a music tour. Useful traits: hardworking and patient. In the most specialized version, you may need to have some decent skills with an instrument. For example, a drum tech need also to tune and maintain the drums. The useful knowledge is about music equipment. In E tier is the DJ, who selects and mixes the music in a club or a party. Play an instrument is not needed, but a bit of piano, for example, would help with some skills like timing and structure. Useful traits: tasteful and passionate if there is an interaction with the crowd. Knowledge of computer software and music equipment. Also in E tier there is the music teacher, which is the easiest profession in the primary group. No wonder most of the aspirant musicians end up doing this job after all, but you still need a decent preparation. Useful traits: patient, empathic and friendly. Good skills in an instrument are necessary. Here I show guitar, since it's one of the most popular instruments people want to learn. Finally, you need a good knowledge of several genres and music theory. Last in E tier we have the sound engineer, who edits, mixes and balances the sound in a recording studio, radio, TV or in a live concert. Useful traits: precise, listener and tasteful. It's very good to play an instrument. My suggestion is piano, and there are certain skills which are important. Most of all, a good ear for timing. For knowledge, computer software and music equipment are essential. In D tier we have the music therapist, who uses music to help people of any age with physical and psychological problems. It's basically a multi-class of musician and psychologist. Useful traits are empathic, listener and friendly. Suggested instrument: guitar and voice, with some decent skills. Knowledge: psychology. Another D tier is the luthier, or in general who builds handmade instruments and fixes them. Useful traits: precise, tasteful and hardworking. Suggested instrument: violin, but in general the instrument which you specialize building. Knowledge: woodcraft and in some cases electronics. We got to C tier with the music manager, which can be a very wide category, with roles like managing an artist, being a booking agent for the concerts, stage manager, tour manager, in general who works in the organization. Of all the professions we are considering, it's probably the one in which playing an instrument is the least important. Useful traits: persuasive, responsible and strategic. Knowledge, of course, music market. Also in C tier there is a critic, which is basically a journalist expert in music, which works in the media, reviewing music and concerts. Useful traits: curious and tasteful. Suggested instrument is piano. It's not critical to play well, but it's important to be able to understand music from the inside. Knowledge is crucial, especially for the genre you specialize in. Also, music market and music theory are important. Last in C tier is the artistic director, who is responsible to decide the program in a music festival or a club. Similar characters work also in radio and TV. Useful traits: strategic, responsible and curious. Like for the critic, it's not crucial to play an instrument, but it's important to be able to understand music well and to have a great knowledge of the genre you work with, plus music market. We are in B tier with the producer, typically working in the recording industry, supervising the sound, the lineup of musicians, and the general idea behind an album or a song. Useful traits are tasteful, creative, strategic, and persuasive. It's good to play an instrument, for example piano, and it's crucial the knowledge of music market and some composition. Also in B tier there is the musicologist who studies the music of the past, the present, and from different servers around the world. Useful traits: curious, listener, and precise. It's important to have a clear idea on how to play instruments of different types. Knowledge of a variety of genres is the most relevant aspect, and also music theory is important. We got to A tier with the lyricist, who writes the lyrics for the songs. In today's music market, it is common to multiclass this role with the composer, which generates the songwriter. For this job, it's good to play guitar or piano. Useful traits: creative and tasteful. Knowledge, music market, music theory and literature. In A tier, we finally find the main character of the game, the musician. If you aspire to do this job full time, you need to reach the Grandmaster League in your instrument. To have a chance, other musicians will call you to be part of their band. There are several other subclasses like singer-songwriter, which combines composer, lyricist and musician. Or the band leader, which in today's music market almost always need to promote themselves at the point that they can be considered multiclass with manager, producer and influencer. Useful traits: tasteful, creative, hardworking and collaborative. A good knowledge of the genres, in particular the one you specialize in, is needed. Also music theory and composition are important. Last in A tier is the arranger, who takes the piece created by the composer or the songwriter and arranges it, creating the music parts for every instrument of the ensemble. In many cases, is part of the ensemble and supervises the musicians working on it. Piano is the suggested instrument to play even if you main another one. Knowledge of genres is essential together with music theory and some computer softwares. We are finally in S tier and we find the music influencer, aka YouTuber, who needs to build a fan base online producing music content ranging from educational to entertaining. To play an instrument can be a prerequisite in most variants of content produced, like cover artist and online instrument teacher. Useful traits: creative, strategic and passionate. Several types of knowledge can be important according to the content produced, but social networks and computer softwares are essential. Another S tier is the composer, often working for TV and cinema. It's very important to be a good musician and to play piano in addition to your main instrument. Useful traits are creative, tasteful, hardworking and precise. It's very important to have knowledge of different genres, plus of course composition and music theory. The last of the list is the conductor, who directs an orchestra or a choir, often also being the arranger for that ensemble. This profession requires a lot of studying, and it's a very competitive field with little opportunities. It's vital to be a good musician with experience in the orchestra or choir, so you can understand music deeply. Useful traits: leader, tasteful, listener and precise. Knowledge of genres, music theory and composition. Now I want to show you what happens when for the tier list we consider the average income possibilities. It's unrealistic to contemplate all the situations, but I just want to give you an idea. The main differences are for the musician, which, except for the pop stars, on average earns much less than the preparation needed for the job, and this is also in part true for the conductor. On the contrary, producers and managers can earn more. One last thing to say is that most of the times a career in music means opening up to different jobs in the field to extend the sources of income. And it also means that normally you need to do yourself many aspects of the job, especially at the lower levels. Ultimately, some very important traits in general are determined, hard worker, versatile, collaborative, and strategic. Good luck to everybody in this pond full of sharks. Ciao!